17 and a half? Bro, that's not even buffed. That's just normal Hindi. What in the damage? Brick Gaming, apparently. Wow. Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the updated Hindenburg Legendary mod, which I think is a pretty nice buff to this ship. The Legendary mod was already really nice if you wanted to run more of a Lighthouse build, as Hindenburg doesn't really bring a lot of utility outside of its pure damage output. No radars or anything like that here. It's always been a very good farmer, and it still is these days, despite having only 30 millimeters of armor and lots of overmatch there. The guns are still absolutely incredible here. That first clip actually ended up doing around 50,000 damage to that Vermont in 40 seconds. Crazy stuff with the armor piercing, and as we're about to see, we have some incredibly consistent high explosive damage output too. This 51 millimeters of HE pen allows us to get through most battleship armor quite easily. So if you hit a battleship, you're probably doing damage. Things like Montana very easily, but there's a Libertad on this flank, a ship that is notoriously difficult to take down. It has 50 millimeters of armor. Yeah, we could just full pen right through with decent fire chance, decent shell velocity as well. The problem with Hindenburg is keeping it alive. So what have they changed to this legendary mod? They've made it tankier. Yes, that is what the change here is going to do. You no longer have the buff to your repair on your main guns getting knocked out, but thanks to turret destruction changes last year, I don't think that's as big of a deal anymore. Crucially, they've added a 20% increased duration of repair party consumable. Hindenburg already had a ton of healing, right? 4 heals base. With Superintendent, you get up to 5 heals. Tons of healing. But now you get 20% more. You could maybe even forego that Superintendent upgrade, retaining the base 4 heals, and you get like 80% of your way to your next 5th heal just in 4 heals alone now with this 20% action time buff. Very nice to see that here, as well as a small change, bonus to fire extinguishing time. It used to be 40% reduced fire time, now it's full 50%. So you saw how quickly those fires from the G-Nan just disappeared off our ship. I didn't use my damage control. That's just how quickly those fires are gone. Really nice there. Flooding, though, did get a small nerf from 70% down to 50% only. But floods aren't quite as big of a deal, honestly, especially on a hydro cruiser. So I don't see that as much of a downgrade, to be honest with you. So really nice buff to the legendary mod on Hindenburg. This is a 5th upgrade slot legendary mod, so competing with concealment. That's a little bit tough, of course. No concealment upgrade here at all on this legendary mod, but it does give us still 20% better rudder shift time, which is why we're running a full Lighthouse build here, which is where we take all the commander upgrades and module upgrades to our ship to make our concealment worse, because there's a few key skills that allow us to do more damage when enemy ships are spotted within our detection range. So we're getting 8% better reload right now off of top grade gunner. We're also using outnumbered to get better dispersion, big dispersion buff there, 10%. These all really play nicely together. It's a little hard to keep Hindenburg alive in those situations though, which is why we usually, instead of running concealment mod in our 5th upgrade slot with these type of builds, we're gonna run the rudder shift mod. That's 40% better rudder shift time. So we lose a little bit compared to that upgrade module. But in return, gaining a lot more healing alongside not worrying about fires and floods nearly as much. I think that's a pretty worthwhile trade-off. If you're at all interested in the Hindenburg as a Lighthouse pure damage farmer, I do think this is a really good module to go for if you haven't already. This is a small change, of course, but an extra 20% extra healing is nothing to sneeze at. This is a very, very big change to this ship, making it a lot tankier. Either you just get way more healing, close to a 6th, effectively a 6th heal if you're taking full Superintendent, or freeing up 3 commander points, right? So you no longer have to take Superintendent. I think that is really, really cool. Worth noting, though, that Hindenburg does not really have any improved repair party percentages, okay? So this ship has a base repair percent of pen damage of 50%. Fires and floods, 100% healable, that damage. But when a shell pens, full pens you with HE or armor piercing, that you can only heal back 50% of that damage. At a certain point, when you have so much healing, you actually start to run into a problem where you can't actually fully use a heal. You'll notice throughout this video, we have a heal of 10,987 HP that we won't always have that available to us in each heal. That's because some of the damage I'm taking is actually permanent to my ship. I can't heal it back thanks to full pens only healing back 50%. If you're ever wondering why something like Valparaiso seemingly can heal through anything, it's got like an 85% pen repair. So 50% is standard, normal. And at this point, with this legendary mod plus all 5 heals, you might run into that issue. Unless you're taking a lot of fire damage, which you 100% heal. But then the legendary mod reduces those fires by half. So suddenly, maybe getting that 5th heal isn't as required. At least that's how I played it. I actually wasn't running Superintendent in the vast majority of my games. Citadel repair is only at 33% also, so taking Citadels is even worse for this healing strategy. Hindenburg has some turtleback, so at closer ranges, sometimes that's going to help you out. But at anything above 10 kilometers, certainly battleships can still Citadel you, and you don't want to be showing that much broadside. We do have at least 30 millimeters of armor, upper belt and deck armor, so against some lower tier battleships, 406 millimeters and below is usually the threshold. 419s, anything like that. It's really Republic, and it's 431 millimeters and above. Anything above that caliber that overmatches 30 millimeters. So here against a Kelowna, which has 381 millimeter guns, we're going to fire some armor piercing, nearly 10,000, and we angle in, and we take pretty minimal damage. Some overpens, maybe. Definitely can heal back through a lot of that, and hopefully we can take him out here. Hindenburg is surprisingly tanky in these situations. Another Kelowna on our other side. At these closer ranges, I think the turtleback helped us out there to not die. I was far too broadside on. So that turtleback is really nice to have here. Front guns only. Outnumbered buff. Yeah, front guns only. 10,000 damage with the AP. Don't sleep on the armor piercing with Hindenburg, okay? Yeah, you want to spam HE a lot of the time. But if you catch those broadsides, man, this armor piercing is absolutely incredible. Small buff from Lutjens even here, spotting 3 ships, getting us an extra heal, although I think at this point we're going to go down. Incredible damage. We actually tanked a decent amount of full pen damage here, not crazy potential damage in this one, and we end with 1 heal still remaining, okay? Here's maybe what I wish this legendary mod did instead of a 20% duration buff to our heal. Maybe give us a 20% buff to the consumable cooldown, right? What if it came back in 60 seconds or even 40-second heal cooldown, right? I think that would be much more impactful. Maybe too strong, okay? Perhaps too strong. But I did find myself a lot of the time with Hindenburg not always getting through all of my heals. Sometimes this was because of that full pen and permanent damage like we were talking about earlier. But other times, Hindenburg, with its 30 millimeters of armor into a lot of tier 10 these days, super ships, you got to play a little further back, okay? You can't just get burst down through these heals. It's not like they come back that much quicker. And certainly that 20% extra duration isn't enough to give you like super heal levels of healing to tank through a ton of damage coming at you. So you play far enough back to not risk too much like that. And suddenly, you're not using your heals very much at all. When you do get in trouble, though, they don't come back quickly enough for you to really get full value through all of your healing. It takes a while for those heals to recharge. So I found myself in a bit of a weird spot there, where the extra healing is very, very, very nice. But is it actually that impactful? I'm not sure. I'll probably still be running this upgrade though, because not having to worry about fires is really, really nice on a ship like this one. It's quite slow, large superstructure, so against some of those light cruisers, that kind of thing, you can get burnt down, so being able to ignore that a little bit more, things like Jinan, for example. Colbert, things like Hawaii, a bit of a newer example, certainly. A little bit scary in that regard. And I won't lie, having that extra healing for some of that full pen damage we're taking from Overmatch. Usually the Overmatch isn't Citadeling you. I mean, you gotta get pretty unlucky for that. It can happen, but usually that's not the case. And so, yeah, you're vulnerable to some Overmatch, but you can heal back more of it these days. Like, that's an interesting trade-off to have. Although, not running Conceal, right? That is the big downside here. I've already shown you some incredible matches, or at least clips, with the armor piercing. We're shooting a lot of HE. That tends to be the way I play my Hindenburg these days. If someone's angled to me, that kind of thing, I'm shooting the HE. Maybe some upper belts, chance of Citadels into light cruisers, then for sure we're going to go with the armor piercing. But all in all, we shoot a lot of HE. We'll get more opportunities, though, to catch people's broadsides if we have better concealment, right? So there's a big trade-off there where if I wasn't taking this legendary mod, I wasn't going full Lighthouse, maybe I'm getting more impactful salvos rather than playing further back the pre-kited playstyle of Lighthouse gameplay. So there's more DPM in theory, but maybe getting into a better position would actually net me more actual damage. I think that's worth considering here with Hindenburg. However, if you do get caught, having that extra healing and, of course, the maneuverability from the rudder shift is extremely valuable here. Hindenburg still has a, well, pretty slow rudder shift of 12.1 seconds with an 800-meter turning circle radius. It's not a very fast ship either, at only 31.5 knots, so it's not like you're dodging a lot of that incoming damage. So having that small boost to your maneuverability can help you out a lot. And maybe you just run the legendary mod and just run a normal build outside. Don't go full Lighthouse like I was doing here. You still get around that 15-kilometer detect, 14-kilometer detect, which is much more usable than, what, the 17 or 18-kilometer detect I have right now. And you still get the bonuses out of the legendary mod. It's kind of what I've been looking at when it comes to Z52 and Daring. It allows for alternate playstyles, but maybe these are just better mods with a standard build. Gain the extra bonuses of the legendary mod while taking a small hit to your concealment. Could be worth it. I don't know. We'll take the E in this one. Managed to win one of these games where I did some monster damage. If you're ever wondering or a little bit lamenting that you had a crazy good game and you did a ton of damage and oh, my team, well, consider that most of my, and I think most people's, best damage games come in a loss, right? That's just going to be natural if you think about it. Your team not being the best means there's more opportunity for you to do damage. Most of my best, highest damage games certainly come with a loss. It's just kind of how it goes. It's unfortunate. You definitely want to win those. I really do myself as well. So really nice to get the E and actually get the victory in at least that one game. The rest of these high damage games, though, yeah, we are losing these. Perhaps I am playing too far back in a lot of these as well. Looking into my playstyle here, the full Lighthouse build does feel quite limiting. On a flank like this one, when we're all alone, it can be quite challenging. I am really thankful for that improved rudder shift time when we're dealing with dodging Petro salvos. Those armor-piercing shells are quite nasty, and we do have to give enough broadside that Petro could do a lot of damage to us if we are firing all of our main guns. And overall, with Hindenburg being in the game for such a long time, I'm glad to see it getting a little bit of love here with its legendary mod. This is certainly not a mandatory one to get, but Hindenburg being a comfort ship of mine still, even all these years later, you know me, if it's got some consistent guns with potentially very high damage output when you get in the right scenario, I am likely going to have a good time. I could deal with the downsides of the poor hull and somewhat poor maneuverability these days if I gain such powerful main guns. So I still really do enjoy it here. Against a Petro, it's so nice to be able to just full pen them everywhere. We get the outnumbered buff here as well, which should be doing some nice work for us too. Hindenburg does not have the highest, craziest DPM in the game. Certainly something like Bremen being released recently for steel has kind of power crept it when it comes to the full max damage output. Hindenburg is still worth playing though, especially if you don't have a Bremen. That of course was my recommendation back when that Steel Will event was going on over last Christmas. If you don't have either one of the Hawaii or Bremen, you can only get one of them. Get yourself a Hawaii. It's more unique if you're a little bit on the fence. You can always get a similar, very similar playstyle with Hindenburg compared to Bremen. These play very, very much the same. And Hindenburg gets you a little more pen. We're going to notice that here, especially on the Petro and into the Libertad earlier in the video. But look at some of these salvos, man. 11 out of 12 hits, 8,500 damage into a Petro. I mean, that feels very, very nice. In fact, he's going to turn away, and understandably so. So I'm not actually going to quite finish him off here. Bit of a tough flank for us here. Hindenburg has 183,000 HE DPM, so it's not like we're going to burst him down that quickly. That armor piercing being at 433,000, that's where the real advantage is. Although it's nowhere near the armor piercing consistency like we see on Des Moines, which has 490,000 AP DPM. It's in the same ballpark, right? The problem here with Hindenburg is that the AP shells are very light, so they don't actually have a lot of pen. Their pen values are standard, so 45 to 60 degree pen angles means, yeah, you're not going to spam it all the time. And those light shells also translate into some very weird shattering performance at longer ranges too. So while I have had some pretty ridiculous AP salvos out of this ship, it's not like I can use it all the time, which is a little disappointing for me. I've always thought about Hindenburg as an armor-piercing first ship and then HE, but over time, as Hindenburg got buffed over the years, they've turned it into more of an HE spammer. The AP is still very good. I just wish they had buffed the armor piercing over the years rather than the high explosive. Back in the day, this ship did not actually get that full 51 millimeters of pen on the HE, and I really wish they had gone the armor piercing route instead as a full AP spammer. That would have been really fun for me, but that's okay. The HE is still quite good, and I can get this ship into some very nice positions to use that armor piercing. Here we are going to go down, unfortunately, but we got 88,000 damage taken. Lots of potential in this ship to tank a lot more damage these days. And yes, it is 40 seconds to do 50,000 damage into this Vermont. I gotta show you guys this clip again. It was just too crazy. Think about it. Vermont has a 40-second reload. Are you consistently getting 50,000 damage out of every Vermont salvo? That's kind of hype. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of hype. It's not every Hindenburg salvo you're gonna get like this, or grouping of salvos in 40 seconds. But the potential of this ship on a flank, you get in the right spot, I think that's really, really cool. And maybe a reason to not go for the Lighthouse build nearly as much. Wait though, that sounds like I'm saying we shouldn't go full greed all the time. We can't have that. Maximum greed every time. It'll never backfire, surely. Maximum greed, by the way, including heavy AP and heavy HE. So yeah, we're giving up like everything here. Everything to help you survive more with this build that I was running. Extremely greedy. Although maybe Eye in the Sky helps us survive a little bit, allowing us to play in some of those more passive games, right? Only 17.8 kilometers of range with 17.9 detect. It's even worse. It's not easy playing with this build, but managed to make it work. Ate a lot of damage, some decent potential damage games. We got a lot of just actual damage into the enemy with this build. Thanks to maybe this legendary mod helping me stay alive. The better rudder shift here getting us down to 9.7 seconds. Much more comfortable. The extra heals here giving us close to a 5th heal with only 4 heals used here. So nice to have there. Probably, I will keep this on my Hindenburg. This was the full Lighthouse build. But if you're looking for something a little more sensible, you could go like this, right? 14-kilometer detect is fine. It's still not very comfortable when ships like Vermont have 12.6-kilometer detect or whatever that one is. It's tough, certainly, just to play that way still, but a lot easier than 17.9. And you still get decent reload here. You're not activating outnumbered terribly often in most games. I really like the dispersion buff here, but you still can activate top grade gunner a lot and get most of that DPM. The extra alpha damage you are missing out on, but as a reminder, that 50k we got into the Vermont there was without that full build with heavy AP shields. I was not taking heavy AP and we still got that much damage. So another argument perhaps to say getting into a better position is more valuable than a few commander skills that nerf your concealment by so much there. But a really decent legendary mod, a side grade. It's not just objectively the best way to play Hindenburg, which again, I think is the best way that Wargaming can go forward with these unique upgrades. They shouldn't just be flat out the better way to play the ship. And I'm glad that Hindenburg's isn't like that, but still received a little bit of love, as Hindenburg is quite old at this point. It's not quite the ship that it was when it released. 30 millimeters of armor is not as powerful as it once was. But let me know what you think in the comments down below about Hindenburg and its legendary mod. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.